When you look into Japanese culture, there are some genres that stand out among the rest. One such genre is the giant robot genre. Whether you're looking at anime, TV shows, movies, or video games, there is a lot of the giant robot genre available in Japanese culture. In TV shows, you can look at things like Gundam. In video games, you can look at games like Armored Core. And in movies, even here in the West, you can see things like Transformers and Pacific Rim. Now on the Vita, there aren't a lot of native games in this genre available to it. You can look in the PSP library to find some Armored Core games, as well as the original Armored Core that releases a PS1 classic not even a month ago. However, when you're looking at native games, most of the Vita's collection of giant robot games are Gundam Breaker games that never left Japan. Today, however, we're going to dive into this genre and a game that has made it over to the West in this genre. One of the very newest games from Arc System Works. Here is my official review of Damascus Gear Operation Tokyo. The story of Damascus Gear takes place in a futuristic version of Japan. The production and creation of large pilotable robots called gears has led to a lot of technological advances, but also a lot of problems. Many of these gears have malfunctioned and are now functioning as their own entity known as rages. These rages have attacked the human population and have taken over most of Japan. You play as a nameless pilot that is new to the Freya Squadron, a group of gear pilots that helps transport supplies and fight off gears to hopefully one day take back your homeland. The storyline is a bit interesting with the apocalypse happening from giant robots rather than other more cliched things. However, it's not something that's going to deeply move you. It's mostly there just to set up the setting so you know why you're doing what you're doing. There is some mild character development here and there, but all in all, it's just to set things up for your gameplay. Damascus Gear is a little different than most robot games because it is an isometric perspective action game. As you play through the game, guiding your own customized robot around a city and various other environments in a very isometric fashion as you search for items and take down enemies for mission objectives or to collect parts. Since not all of these weapons are firearms and there are some melee weapons thrown into the mix, this would be classified as an action game as opposed to just a shooting game. When you first start up the game or you're going between missions, you'll be at your base. The base of operations is more like a menu that has different areas for you to go into. There is the mission area where you can take on various missions. There's the dock area where you can customize your gear. The shop is where you can buy and sell equipment, and there is a settings option where you can modify new game options. Now your main modes are going to be mission and dock. In mission you can take on various missions. The missions are separated into 6 different categories as well as DLC missions, which is more or less the difficulty range, rank E, D, C, B, A, the list goes on. Now the dock is probably where you're going to be spending most of your time when you're at your base. The dock is where you can customize your rope. When you go through missions or go through the shop, you can find many different parts that you can use in the robot. There are head parts, shoulder parts, arm parts, leg parts, chest parts, primary and sub-weapons, as well as shoulder weapons. There are a lot of different customization options here, and every single piece looks different, and you can also equip various pieces of equipment based on the energy output that you have. You can't just equip every massive overpowered piece of equipment you have. Let's say you have 200 energy. You cannot exceed 200 energy from every single piece of equipment you currently have equipped. Now when you're actually going out on missions, you will be in an isometric perspective, as we said earlier. You will be moving your robot as well as some AI robots moving along behind you throughout various areas while you take down enemies and search for items depending on your mission objective. Some missions just have you fighting enemies and that's it. Some will have you find bosses to defeat. Some will have you picking up various shipments of cargo and moving them. And some have you escorting NPCs and protecting them until you get to your objective. The biggest thing challenge seekers are going to want to know about this game is that there are a lot of difficulty spikes. Every mission is timed, and while most of the missions have timers that will never even go close to running out, some of the missions are hard because they have very strict timers. I had a few missions even in the first early chapters of the game where I had mere seconds left on the timer by the time I finished the mission. The other part of the difficulty is that the game constantly challenges you with more powerful enemies. You can't just go through the game and run and gun everything. You have to learn to dodge, know what weapons are effective against what enemies, what weapons can go through walls so you can shield yourself, as well as other things. I found myself challenged within the first 20 minutes of the game, and the difficulty spikes are really big. There are many missions where you go in and see an enemy for the first time as a boss fight, and within moments, all of your AI partners will be gone and you will be left to fend for yourself. Even then, in some of the missions, I found myself not doing the correct dodging and getting killed within mere seconds of my allies going down. This is a very hard game, and the difficulty spikes are not very balanced, but they are very large. So if you're looking for a challenge, this is definitely a game for you. Now, across the 6 different mission ranks, as well as the DLC missions, the game should take you at least 10 to 15 hours to finish. It's not an incredibly long game. For an action game, there's a fair amount of length to it. As far as the visual presentation is concerned, Damascus Gear does look good. When you're on the dock menu and you have a close-up of your gear, you can see a lot of detail on each individual part that you've got equipped. There are a few jagged edges around the model, but in missions you aren't going to see this at all. This is a very clever part of the isometric perspective. The camera is so far away from your mech that you don't even see jagged edges anywhere except for a few laser effects. Now, the things to note about the presentation are load times and sound quality. The load times between missions can get very lengthy. Some missions load in 8 to 10 seconds, but some will take 15 to 20 seconds or more. If you're not a patient person, this can get quite annoying. The other aspect is the sound quality. In specific missions, in specific groups of enemies, you will start attacking them and the sound effects will glitch and completely mute. This is on various enemies, in specific missions, and on specific groups of enemies. I tested this many times, and I went into the same mission over and over again, and the sound only cut out when I was attacking a specific group of enemies, even though I attacked the same type of enemy in many other locations in that mission. It's not something that's going to break the game for you, but it's something you should know about. Damascus Gear Operation Tokyo is Arc System Works' newest game for the PS Vita and the PlayStation 2. On the downside, the difficulty spikes are not very balanced, and there are a few issues with long load times and sound cutting out in certain missions. Outside of this is a fast-paced mech action game with more customization options than you will know what to do with. PlayStation Vita Reviews rates Damascus Gear Operation Tokyo a 7 out of 10. If you would like to further this discussion, feel free to comment in the section below on the site, or go to our forum at forum.vitareviews.net to take part in the community. Thank you.